Today's lecture is on the two-point slope formula. So far we have learned a lot about lines and slope. To review, please graph point A at -4 and 1, then draw a line through point A that has a slope of 7/3. Okay, so right away you know that to graph a line you need to have 2 points, or you need to have 1 point and then the ability to find another point using the slope. And that's what we have here. Let's graph point A at -4, 1 is always shown with the x value first, followed by the y value. We have the x-axis and the y-axis. The x value is at -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the y value is at 1, and they meet right here. That is point A. My slope is rise over run. That means that the top number here, my numerator of 7, is going up. And my bottom number, my denominator of 3, is going to the right. It's running across the graph 3 spaces. So starting from point A, let's go. 7 up and 3 over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 was the rise, and over 1, 2, 3. There's my second point. Once you have 2 points, connect the dots together, and just remember to put arrows on the end to show that it's a line that goes on forever and not a line segment or array. Your knowledge about lines and slope should be very helpful when you take a math test such as the GED. For example, read the following question that might appear on a GED. Can you eliminate some of the possible answers immediately based on what you know about slope? So this is just good test-taking skills here. When you're looking at a problem, what is the equation of the line? And here's our line. I see 4 multiple choice answers, A, B, C, or D. Sometimes it's nice to be able just to cross a few off right away. Well, looking at our line, we know one thing right away. It does have a negative slope. It's going downhill. Let's see if we can figure out which of these lines have negative slopes and which have positive slopes. I can look right away. I see y equals, y equals, y equals. I see all of them are written in slope-intercept form of y equals mx plus b. When they're written like this, the number next to the x or the m is the slope, and the number on the end is the y-intercept. So it looks like they're saying the slope could be 2, 2, or -2, or -2. We just said that the slope of this line was negative, so we can eliminate both of these lines that has slopes of +2. Well, instantly, I now am down to only 2 choices. I have a 50-50 shot of getting it right. The only thing different about these lines here is the plus and the negative right in front of our 4. So we just need to figure out, is the y-intercept at -4 or is the y-intercept at +4? And this is my y-axis. It's going down. Right here is the y-intercept at -4. So it can't be at +4, and my answer is going to be C. Next page. Today we are going to learn yet another way to calculate slope. This is called a two-point slope formula. This formula was actually introduced to you several lectures ago as change in y over change in x. The reason that I'm expanding it a little bit here is because a lot of my students have struggled with the two-point formula in the past, so I really wanted to break it down and expand it a bit today to make it more accessible. Today I'm going to explain how you can determine the change in y or the change in x without looking at a graph. You won't always be given a graph on a math test that you have to do. You can do this as long as you have 2 points. Let's call them point 1 and point 2. Each point will have an x and a y value like so. For instance, point 1 will have an x and a y value, and we just put a little subscript here just to make sure that you know that this x value is referring to point 1. Now point 2 has an x and a y value also, and this little subscript of a 2 is just so you know that you're referring to point 2. So note that the numbers 1 and 2 let us know which point we are talking about. You can think of it as the first point and the second point. To use the 2-point slope formula, you subtract one y value from the other. Right here, we chose to take the second y value and then subtract the first y value. And then in the denominator, you subtract one x value from the other. And really, this is just the change in y, or the vertical change, over the change in x, or the horizontal change. So let's look at an example. Without graphing, tell the slope of a line going through points 3, 2 and 7, 8. First, and please always do this first, you need to clearly show an x1, x2, y1, and y2, exactly like we put up here. Just make sure next to your x and y values that you actually put a 1 and a 2 so you know which point you're referring to. If you do that, you should get them all correct. Now I like to write the variables underneath each coordinate so I don't get confused. Here's 3, 2. I'm just saying this is my first point. I'll make the 3 my x1. The 2 is my y1 because each point has an x and a y value. This is just showing that this is my first point. And 7, 8 I am saying is my second point. That's why I put x2, y2. So now I know what my x1 is, what my y1 is. I know what my x2 is, and my y2. Next page. After you have determined what your x1s and y1s are, then you just plug the numbers into your formula. And this is your formula, and it was on the other page, but let's go ahead and write it. Point 1 was at 3, 2, and point 2 was at 7, 8. There. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my x1s and my y1s underneath each of these. My first point, my x and my y. My second point, there's my x and my y. Now I'm just going to plug them back into the formula here. Find your y2. Well, there it is. It's an 8. Minus, find your y1. Well, there it is. It's a 2. That's it for the numerator. Now, find your x2. Well, there it is. It was a 7. Subtract x1. And there's my x1 right there. It's a 3. So we're looking at our formula, and we're going back and we're finding the value that I have put right on top or below, however you put it, of your point. So 8 minus 2 becomes 6. 7 minus 3 becomes 4. 6 over 4 can be reduced down to 3 over 2. That is my slope. Slope for those 2 points, for the line that's connecting those 2 points, will be 3 over 2. Next page, last page, which has some practice problems for you. Tell the slope of a line going through points 1, 2 and 5, 5. Let's do this one together. I have 2 points here. I know I'm going to have an x and a y value for each one. And let's make sure we say this is the first point and this is the second point. My formula for slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's just substitute. Where's my y2? It's a 5. Minus, where's my y1? It's a 2. In the denominator, find your x2 right here. It's 5. Find your x1 right here. It's 1. So the first step is all substitution. The next step, just do the math. 5 minus 2 is 3. 5 minus 1 is 4. So here's the slope, 3 over 4. Now you have 3 more practice problems. Go ahead and pause the video here and work those out on your own, and then we'll come back together. All right, let's figure out the slope of a line going through points 0, negative 2, and 3, 4. All right, so first point, right here, x1, y1. My second point has an x2 and a y2. Let's use the same formula that we did here. We subtract our y2 here, 4 minus y1, negative 2, and make sure that you carry your negatives as well, over, find my x2, which is 3, minus my x1, which is 0. Second step then is to just do the math. 4 minus a negative 2, when you have two negatives like this together, it's going to turn into a plus. 4 plus 2 over 3 minus 0 is 3. 4 plus 2 is 6, and 3. Now I can reduce 6 over 3. How many times does 3 go into 6 completely? 2. The slope for those 2 points there becomes 2. Next, tell the slope of a line going through points 1, 5 and negative 4, negative 2. Okay, point 1, x1, y1, and point 2, x2, y2. Plug them into your formula, which is here. y2, that's negative 2 minus y1, 5, over x2, negative 4 minus x1, 1. The next step then, do the math. Negative 2 minus 5 becomes negative 7 on the top. Negative 4 minus 1 becomes negative 5 on the bottom. Now, two negatives like this are going to cancel each other out and make a positive. 7 over 5 is the slope for the line running through those 2 points. Last one. Tell the slope of a line going through points negative 4, negative 2, and 1, 5. First point, second point. Now use your formula right here, the 2-point formula. You find y2, which is 5, minus y1, which is negative 2, over, find your x2, which is 1, minus your x1, which is negative 4. Okay, a lot of negatives here. 5 minus 2, those two negatives are going to become a plus. Becomes 5 plus 2. 1 minus a negative 4, again, that becomes 1 plus 4. 5 plus 2 is 7, over 1 plus 4 is 5. So the slope of the line that goes through those 2 points is 7 over 5. Did you notice that's the same slope as the problem that we just did? If you take a very close look, you'll actually notice that they're the same points. 1, 5, here it is. Negative 4, negative 2, here it is. But in this case, I just said, hey, let's use our second point and just swap it and put it first. So the points were exactly the same. We got the same answer. It does not matter which point comes first. As long as you don't mix up your x1, x2, y1, and y2, it still works out the same. So what I mean here is make sure that whatever you've labeled as your y2 and your y1, that you do that. And then on the bottom, you have to go back to the x2 and start there. Okay, great. Nice job.